Next on the pod, Tanguy Ndombele is hopeful of a move away from Tottenham this month. The Athletic understands the midfielder was booed off by some of the Spurs fans yesterday when substituted during the side's 3-1 FA Cup win over Morecambe. The Athletic's Jack Pitt-Brooke covers Tottenham, joins us now. Presumably, if he does get a move, he'll move quicker than he did when he was being substituted yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think of a worse way to endear yourself to the fans than that. You know, the team is playing very badly, losing at home to Morecambe in the FA Cup. And Ndombele has exhausted the patience, I think, of the entire Tottenham fan base at this point, as well as, 5 different Tottenham managers, if you include Ryan Mason. And the one thing that the fans want to see in that situation is players thinking, this isn't going very well. Anything I can do to help improve the situation, I should do by just running off the pitch and letting Lucas Moura come on in my place. So yeah, that obviously has annoyed a lot of people and really fed into this idea that Ndombele doesn't really want to be there, doesn't want to make a success of his time at Tottenham as much as other people might want him to.
How much is on him? How much is on the fact that his Tottenham career? I mean, you've just made 5. Did you say if we include Ryan Mason?
Yeah.
So you go through 5 managers in the space of time that he's been there in 2.5 years. So one school of thought will go, well, 4 or 5 of those managers who weren't sure about him, if there's all that group that weren't sure about him, then they can't be wrong as a group. There'll be others who go, well, give the guy a chance. He hasn't had a chance to settle because he's had this carousel of managers coming through.
Yeah, so I've always been on the kind of Ndombele sympathetic side of the argument on this. I love watching him play. I want him to do well. I think he should be in the team more often than not. And maybe it's not fair to say that all 5 managers have decided exactly the same thing against him. There have been slightly different circumstances. Pochettino was sacked before he could really give Ndombele a proper run. Jose played him a fair bit. Mason was only there very briefly. And with Nuno, he'd actually kind of got back into the team before Nuno was sacked himself. So it's not always exactly the same. But if you take the last 2.5 years as a whole, you can see a guy who's played a lot of games for the club, has shown a lot of glimpses of how incredibly gifted he is. And yet the fact remains he hasn't put in, I mean, it's not just that he hasn't put in a string of very good performances, he hasn't really put in that many proper 90-minute performances. I think at the moment he's fitter than he has been in the past. But for a long time, he couldn't really do 90 minutes. So put it all together, and the body of work that he has produced as a Tottenham player, frankly, is nowhere near good enough, given A, the fact that he cost 55 million euros in 2019, and B, the fact that he is one of the most gifted midfielders in Europe.
Adam?
He just strikes me as... I had a friend who used to just sort of talk about match of the day players, a player that you see on match of the day doing a wonderful pass or a wonderful goal, and because you don't watch that team every week or for their whole match every week, you think, oh my God, why isn't this guy playing every minute of every game? And that's the thing with Ndombele. I remember moments from him over the last couple of years that were fantastic. Was it the goal against Sheffield United away?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. There was some really good passes when did he play in the 6-1 at Old Trafford?
Yeah.
As well. He was fantastic. But in terms of real performances where he's absolutely dominated the midfield in the way that we were maybe told that he was going to when he arrived, that's not happened. Is there a market for him at the moment? Is it going to have to be? Do they have to send him out on loan to rediscover some value for him? And is there any chance his relationship with Conte can recover from here?
Well, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get rid of him. Tottenham have tried in the past to get rid of him. Back in the summer, at the start of this season, Ndombele came back for pre-season, said that he wanted to leave. Nuno didn't pick him until the situation was resolved. Tottenham tried really hard to find him a move, and there weren't enough. They couldn't find a taker for him. The fact is, the guy's got. Is
that because of their price tag, or is that because of his salary?
So he's on £200,000 a week, which is difficult to, the thing is he signed in the summer 2019 just before COVID, and the football marketplace has completely changed in the course of that last 2.5 years. And that, it was probably it wasn't a bad deal to do at the time, but now it's a very difficult player to move. And Tottenham were trying to find movers. And Ndombele himself thought that he could get a move to Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, and Bayern were interested, but it didn't happen. Big teams in Italy have had a look at him, but they're not quite sure enough, not at the money that he would command. And I think he would like to go, and Tottenham would certainly love to find a good move for him. But that's a really easy thing to say and a really, really difficult thing to do in 2022.
What do you think they'd take for him?
Well, they're not going to get. I don't think they're going to sell him. I'd be surprised, simply because they'd be selling him at a huge loss. I think they would rather loan him, try to get him to rebuild some of his value, show what a talented player he is. But you've still got to make the loan deal happen. And this is something they have not been able to do so far. I'm sure that Paratici will be trying very hard this month to find a club that he can go to, maybe in France, maybe in Spain, maybe in Italy. But I'm not optimistic. I'll believe it when I say it.
Has the price tag been a problem for him, do you think, at Tottenham, in what Tottenham fans expect of him?
Maybe.
Is there a greater expectation on him than
Lo Celso,
for example?
I think there is. I think that is true, because Tottenham are they're not a team who spend 50 million on players, so it's a kind of one-off for them, and it hasn't worked. But I think also the fact of his talent has counted against him as well, in the sense that you watch this guy and you see he can do things that nobody else can do with a football. And that makes it doubly frustrating for Spurs fans that he can't produce what they would expect him to do, compared to, frankly, less talented players like, I don't know, Moussa Sissoko, Harry Winks, whoever, who do put in a lot more work on the pitch.
Yeah, there is maybe also another counter argument that since he's arrived at the club has slumped overall. Good managers have failed at Spurs over the last couple of years. A number of players have had periods of really poor drop-offs in form as well, whether it's Harry Winks, Dele Alli, Harry Kane at different times as well. There is sometimes, I think, as well, maybe a need to factor in just the overall culture and environment of a workplace that has an impact on new people coming into it, and how successful they're able to be.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I certainly think that one of the stories the last few years, as Spurs have got, two big managerial appointments wrong in Mourinho and Nuno, is that they have failed to get the most out of the players who they brought in during that time. Since 2019, they signed Ryan Sessegnon as well as Lo Celso and Ndombele. They signed Steven Bergwijn as well in January 2020. 4 really talented players who, for a combination of reasons, some of them injury, some of them the change of manager, haven't really worked out as signings. Now, you can blame the individuals for that. You can say it's bad luck with injuries, but when it keeps happening to that many players, it suggests that Tottenham has not been a place over the last 3 years for young, talented players to flourish, unfortunately. And that's why I think, while I think Ndombele has to bear the brunt of the responsibility for what's happened to him, I do agree with you that the changes haven't helped. And maybe in an alternative world in which, let's say, Pochettino had been allowed to stay and rebuild the team and rebuild with Ndombele and improve Ndombele, maybe we'd be in a different position today.